Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber with Everyone Loves Guitar. I have a really cool, really awesome guest, a very talented musician. We have Jon Childers on the show with us today. Jon's the lead singer and rhythm guitarist and writer of one of the writers for Blank Range. They, if you haven't heard of them, you've got to check them out. And I guess if when you download the album, it came out as an alternative rock band, but I could tell you is that they're a really good rock band, and they've actually got some stoner rock influence as well, particularly in a song called Ember in the Ash. But these guys are a very solid band. I mean, you would think they've been playing together much, much longer than they have because they're really cohesive. The writing is very good. Excellent lyrics. These are like very introspective, deep-thinking young guys, and I think they're going to be around for a long time. Their lyrics have tons of meaning in them, and we'll talk about some of them. Their music's very addictive. Amazing harmonies, and it's a great disc to listen to. I listened to it literally all day the first day I've got it, and I listened to it again yesterday. I've got like 5 plays on each song already. It's just awesome. Jon's voice it's really beautiful. It's just filled with passion, and he's got the growl and intensity of a guy who's been smoking cigarettes for 50 years. The only difference is he can carry a tune like no one's business. His voice is very melodic, and the guy's given 110%. The whole band, they've had a great work ethic. You could hear it in the music, and they're not holding anything back. Their new album, which just came out, is called Marooned with the Treasure, and it just came out last week. Like I said, it's available on Amazon, iTunes, Bandcamp, and other mainstream vendors. Jon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Craig. I'm excited to do this.
Well, congratulations on the record. It's extremely well produced, well engineered and mastered, and all the more so when you consider it's your first full-length record. And I was curious, is there a reason why that is? I mean, usually you hear a band's first album or two and it's just a little rough. There's nothing remotely rough about your stuff, man, and that's very unusual. We've
had a few years on us to kind of hone our sound in, and we've been playing, the 4 of us have been playing together for a long time now. We played it live a lot, and we've written a lot of songs before this that aren't on this record. So I think that we just gained more and more experience in honing songcraft. I think that that's been a really big focus for us in the last year. Yeah, we're big fans of a lot of the classic songwriters and just try to aim for that, aim high.
Who do you have in mind when you say that, classic songwriters?
Bob Dylan's huge for all of us. Fleetwood Mac is something that we always come back to. Me personally, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Seger, like classic rock looms kind of large in our lives. Like that side, the songwriter-based classic rock.
You know, it's really interesting because I was going to ask you if you were influenced by Dylan, but I didn't know how that would go over to be truthful, because that's the first person I thought of when I was listening to your lyrics.
We all really love Dylan and grew up on it to varying degrees and have spent so much time with it that, there'll be a different album every once in a while that's one of our favorites. I know Grant, the other main singer and songwriter, he's been really into Nashville Skyline lately. Mm-hmm. And I've been kind of into, I don't know, what Dylan have I been listening to lately? It changes so much. Kind of like some of the gospel stuff these days for me.
Yeah, it's really funny. I the first thing that came to mind, I said, man, this guy sounds like Bob Dylan, except he could sing. I mean, because Dylan's voice is not really melodic. It's almost like a hillbilly rapping to some extent. But that's
I think he doesn't get enough credit sometimes. He can do some pretty incredible things. But yeah, he's definitely a big one for us.
Well, it comes through, man, and the quality of lyrics are just outstanding. the songs are, like when I listen to it, I find the songs very optimistic. But I could appreciate that there's a darkness underneath, and there's like a journey through darkness to the light. And I was wondering if you find writing somewhat therapeutic at times, or that maybe it gives you some closure along, through those journeys or parts at a time.
Yeah, I think it is therapeutic. A lot of times I don't really know what I'm writing about when I set out to write the song. I do a lot of free writing where I'll kind of have a melody going and a chord structure, and then I'll just write anything that comes to mind just to get words going down on the page. And then I'll go back and start picking out things I like, and sometimes it's not till after the song's done or halfway done that I start to realize what it's about, and I can kind of hone in on it from there. But yeah, it's a journey into the psyche sometimes.
Yeah, but it's very clear about that. There's no mystery. I mean, the flow of everything it's you take the listener through that, in a really good way. And
good.
Yeah, awesome. You could tell like you're a very deep guy and you've got a lot of substance. One of the songs I really liked, my favorite song on the record actually, is Crimson Moon. And I just had a couple of questions on some of the lyrics there. There's two lines that are great. The first one is, I saw hues of blue I knew not to exist, so I crushed them up and blessed them to the wind. Anything specific there?
Yeah, that was actually, so when we're on tour, it's kind of harder to write songs on tour because you don't have a lot of alone time. And when I'm writing, I kind of need alone time to work everything out and be able to sing loud. And it's just like traditionally people have a harder time writing on tour, but what I can do is take little snippets of things that I see along the way and write them down. So I end up sending myself a bunch of text messages of just little phrases I think of or things that I see that I think are cool. And maybe that'll get used later, or maybe it's just part of the process. But that one specifically, I remember driving up Highway 1, we were in California, and we had like a week in between shows. We were going from Los Angeles to Seattle, I think, for Bumbershoot. And I don't know if you've ever done that drive, but it's pretty incredible. Along the coast there, whenever we have time, we like to stay along the coast in California for as long as we can. I remember just being up on a cliff and looking down in the water, and it really was like the blue in the water was something that I hadn't really seen before. I hadn't spent a lot of time out there. It was crazy, so that really struck me. And that's where that hues of blue line came from. I saw those hues, but then I kind of think of it as also, sadness is often equated with blue. So I saw when the female that the song is kind of written about has that rejection, then you feel that sense of rejection, but the decision is to take it and move on by crushing it up and sending whatever that is out into the wind, which helps because we were on the coastline and it was windy.
That's awesome, man. I just got goosebumps when you said that, to be honest with you. That was pretty intense.
Thanks.
You have another lyric in that same song, which is probably, to me, you tell me how you wrote it, but it's probably like the best sobriety line I've ever heard in my life, where you say, raise a glass to every present from your past. Yeah,
that this is kind of one that the light can change depending on the perspective. I wrote some of the song before I was sober, and I think I maybe was just saying, raise a glass to those times that are forgotten. That last verse is kind of, I don't know, I guess it's a little harder to explain for me because I don't have something specific, but raise a glass to every present from the past, and then I say tie one on for every seed that hasn't been sown. It's kind of just raise one up for the ones that got away. That's kind of what I was thinking there.
Right. Great. The whole song is wonderful, man. Roommate's Girlfriend. I was hoping to hear that on this album, because that's on YouTube. Anybody listening, check out Blank Range. Look up Roommate's Girlfriend. It's a phenomenal song. When is that going to be on an album?
That's on our first EP. So that came out in 2013, and we've been playing it for years since. But you can find that on Phase 2, and we did that album a little differently. We did that all on our own. We ended up getting some really cool sounds, especially the drums. A lot of people really like the way the drums sound on that record, and it was a real learning experience for us, and it was really fun. But I wrote that one a while ago, and there's a few people in my life that think that it's specifically about them, and maybe it is, but I think it's kind of about a lot of us in our 20s who had that experience where you're best friends with the people that you live with, and then somebody gets in a relationship and things change pretty quick sometimes, and you don't see so much of them. So it's kind of like a love letter to a friend.
Yeah, I totally get it. I like on the video at the end, I think it's Grant, and at the end he goes, "Hey, well, thank you, we're Blank Range," or something like that. You know what I'm talking about at the very end of that?
Oh yeah, is the one South by Southwest?
Yeah,
512.
Yes, it's really cool. And it's almost like he was kind of bashful or shy to say it, and just like a tail end thing there. You know, it was really kind of cool.
They did a really good job with that video. The Do 512 people are pretty great.
Oh man, I thought it was phenomenal. The whole thing was done. I don't know if this is by luck or by picking some bad people initially and then paying tuition and finding some good ones, but it seems like you've been surrounded with some pretty good people on both the recording side and the video side.
Yeah, we've the recording side we've been blessed to have people that want to work with us that are fans of the band. So that worked out really well in our favor. And then video work, a lot of it's been for whoever wants to do it for live things. And we're happy to play a session whenever we can. I think that video is one of our best ways to get the word out, because we're a live band. We play a lot of shows, and it helps for people to be able to see that, especially since we didn't have a record out until just now. So it was just nice to have something that people could go home and listen to.
Yeah, and your voice is great on that song, man. You're really like pulling it from the bottom, man. It was really very cool.
I think that's it's definitely, my voice has gotten a lot better since I haven't been dehydrating it so much.
I bet. Hey, so where are you originally from, and where'd you grow up?
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, and I was only there till I was like 4, and then my parents moved the family to Byron, Illinois, and that's where I grew up. I was in Byron until I was 18, and then I went down to Champaign-Urbana in Illinois for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
What was your childhood like?
It was great. Really loving family, supportive parents. I was, good friends with my siblings. Growing up, they're a little bit older than me, so they left when I was like in 8th grade. They were both off at college, but I've had really close group of friends that, some remain to be like family for me.
That's great.
Which is really good.
Yeah, it is.
It's small town. Byron's a very small town. We had, I think, like 10,000 people maybe in the surrounding areas growing up.
Well, that is very small.
Yeah, it was like my graduating class was like 150. I think.
Wow. Yeah, that's tiny, man. Very rural.
We all went through all the grades together. It is rural, but we have the reason why a lot of people live there is there's a nuclear power plant. So that is kind of where the industry's at there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was great. I was really involved in Boy Scouts. My dad was the scout master. And that's how I held on to a lot of my friends. And that was a pretty influential part of my life.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I wasn't a Boy Scout. I remember a lot of my buddies were, and that was a very, an anchor part of their lives. It was something they identified with for a long time.
Yeah, it was huge for me. Getting outdoors, learning leadership. I was on the staff of a leadership camp for probably 6 years.
Oh, wow.
There, and I just had some really close friends in my grade that we all decided to stick it out together. A lot of people end up quitting when they're like getting into high school, but we were just decided to go for it, and 5 of us ended up getting our Eagle Scouts at the end of it.
There you go.
Oh,
how come they didn't put that on your? They didn't put that on your the thing, the PR stuff on the record company.
I don't know.
Maybe they thought it wasn't sexy. That would have been pretty cool to put that on there. And John's an Eagle Scout.
Maybe we'll get it on the next one. We're always refining.
So what kind of jobs did your folks have? Is that what they did? Did they work in the power plant, in the nuclear plant there?
Yeah, my dad was a reactor operator at the nuclear power plant, and then my mom raised us, and she was involved in community, and she was involved in scouts, and she also had some side businesses, basket weaving being a main one of those.
Cool.
Yeah.
So first of all, congratulations. You're sober 22 months now, and I know that's not easy at all, man. Honestly, my hat's off to you.
Thanks.
What was your drug of choice that got you down that rabbit hole?
Good old-fashioned alcohol, and too much of it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And you had talked to me a couple of times about an organization that really supported you. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, that's it was pretty clear that I needed to do something. My life was getting out of control, and I had people that cared about me enough to be pushing me in the right direction and trying to get me to go to rehab. And the thing that made it really easy was there's this organization called Music Cares. They're run through the Grammy Foundation, and they're really helpful to musicians for all kinds of medical needs. But I filled out an application, and they approved to send me to a 30-day treatment center. And honestly, it changed my life so much, and it was huge. They turned my life around. I can't thank them enough, and I think that if anybody is a musician, it's definitely something to look into if you feel like you have a problem.
I would imagine when you sat down to fill out that application, 1,000,001 things were going through your head. What would you say to like somebody else who's sitting there contemplating doing the same thing and having this, probably the little voices on their shoulders fighting with them to do that?
I would say that a lot of people that aren't alcoholics don't spend a lot of time wondering if they're alcoholics or not. You can justify things a lot in your mind, but deep down you kind of know where you're at and where your life's at. And one thing that I've learned is like your bottom doesn't have to be that low to turn things around. And just I never thought I was going to be at that point. You don't grow up thinking you're going to get to that point, but there I was.
Man, I think that's a powerful thing, what you just said. Your bottom doesn't have to be that low, because for many people, the bottom's far lower than, a non-alcoholic or a non-addict would ever imagine. But I think there's a lot of power in what you said, because I think, I think there's a part of all of us that, or a lot of us that have something inside saying, tying our sense of what we deserve to how much pain and suffering we've gone through.
Yeah. And I kind of thought that myself going into it, and what I came to realize is that, you know, I had to accept that I did deserve the help, and that I should use it, and how I'm being thankful for it is by continuing to live soberly.
Congratulations again. I appreciate you being so transparent about that, man. Was there any kind of takeaway today that going through that experience and still working that experience, what has that taught you, if anything, about yourself, or what's your big takeaway from this whole slice of life?
I think that you can get like really down if you're using substances, and I really don't recognize the person that I was at the time. I didn't realize how depressed I was getting. I think that's something that I've tried to continue to be, and I have a lot more gratitude now, or at least I can see it, and it's good to not take anything for granted that's going on in your life, and that helps me working towards meeting new goals. And just being grateful to be employed and have a
No, I hear that. That's like something that I hear from almost everybody everybody I interview that's a kind and decent human being, which is like 95%, maybe higher than that, of the people I've spoken to, which I'm really fortunate, has said the same thing, that I'm just so grateful that I'm actually playing music for a living.
Yeah. It's really cool, and it's definitely not something to be taken for granted. A ton of people want to be doing this, and you can always compare where you're at with other people, and maybe think that you're not far enough along, or maybe think that things are going well, but it's always good to remember that there's like a ton of people that would love to be doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, you ever heard of the Kentucky Headhunters?
I've heard the name.
They've been around a long time. They're basically, you'd think in their name they're a country band, but they're really a blues rock band from Kentucky with Kentucky influences. But I interviewed Greg Martin, tremendous guitar player, and he's been their sole lead guitar player since they started in the late 60s. And that's what he said to me. He said, I would never have thought in my wildest imagination and this is a guy who's, he's played all over the world. He's won 4 Grammys. I mean, that's what he said. He's just like, we're so lucky to have done this. I never would have thought that. And, I found that so humbling. It was,
yeah. I think the further you get along and the more you see how hard won things can be, I think the more appreciative, at least I get about it.
Well, that's good, man. What prompted you to move to Nashville?
I was in a band up in Illinois, and honestly, like after college, I probably would have been sort of done. I still would have played music, but I was not looking that seriously into pursuing it professionally, and ended up forming a rock band the summer after I graduated college, and we played up in Champaign, Urbana for about a year, and that really kept me going. And looking back, we did a very little amount of touring, but one of those tours took us to Nashville, and our drummer, Matt, who is the drummer in Blank Range now, knew this guy, Grant, from jazz gigs up in Naperville, Illinois. Grant went to college in Naperville, and Matt grew up in Naperville. So that was pretty much the only person that he knew in Nashville that we could call to stay with. And we called him up, and he was in town, and he invited us over. And he lived in a big house with 7 guys. And ended up being our last show of tour, was our Nashville gig, because we had one in Memphis, but it got canceled. So we just hung out in Nashville. I was out of college, but the other guys were on spring break. We stayed in Nashville for about 4 days and had a really great time. And all of his roommates, you know, we saw them out there playing music, touring. Grant was touring. Grant is the other songwriter and guitarist now in Blank Range. And, yeah, it was cool to really get an image of those guys doing it, making music happen. We had planned on moving to Chicago, and we just kind of decided. It helped that it was like warm enough to sleep outside and really nice in Nashville in March, and it was like a frozen tundra in Champaign-Urbana where we were.
Yeah, I hear that.
But just walking down the street one day, me and the other guy in the band kind of just decided right then and there to go to Nashville instead. And
so then you hooked up, the two of you guys hooked up with Grant and started working on stuff together?
Yeah, we moved down. I think we came back like one weekend to just kind of remind those guys that we existed. Just be like, hey, you guys convinced us to move down. We're moving down now. And then we packed our stuff up and moved down, and Grant, you know, those guys that we stayed with were the people that we knew here. So we inevitably ended up hanging out with them and then playing together and starting to write songs together. We had like a few different things going on in that period, that first year, but it was really fun. It was really fresh. We were just ready to do whatever.
And what year was that? When was that move?
I want to say I moved in 2011.
2011.
I think.
Okay. So you've had a very packed 6 years.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild. It feels like a super long time, but then it also feels really short.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I didn't know that I was going to be in Nashville this long, but here I
am. Where'd you go to college?
University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana.
Gotcha.
Illinois.
When did you start playing music? Like, what was your earliest exposure to music, and what were you playing? Were you always singing? Were you always writing, or were you primarily a guitarist at one time? Or
probably like earliest exposure was church growing up, just singing hymns and things. We had kind of like, I grew up in a Catholic church, but we had kind of a non-traditional band for a while. It was a married couple, and they played acoustic guitars, and they sang the songs, led the worship. Non-traditional for a Catholic setting, I think.
Yeah, that's more along the like the Baptist or some Protestant sect or side. Yeah.
So that was some of the earliest exposure, and then being in Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, you're always singing songs at camp. And then from there, doing choir. I did choir pretty much all throughout school. I was in the band for a long time. I played euphonium and baritone and tuba. And then I didn't really pick up the guitar until later on, like high school. I was in a band that I was just singing in. I was like the third lead singer of my friend's band. We were called Monster Puke.
Monster Puke.
So I did that, and then I don't really remember exactly when I decided that I wanted to play guitar, but it was not early. It was like at least 16 probably. And I started to learn. I probably wanted to before, but didn't get around to doing it. And I've always played guitar. I focused on the instrumental side and the chop side of it a lot more in the past few years, and like have had to, being in Nashville, but I'm still would not say I'm a hot player at all.
Sure.
I have the skills to be in this band, and I don't know if I have the skills to be in many other ones. Right. But it's always been a method for songwriting for me, a way that I can perform and write songs and learn other people's songs.
Sure. So it's been the tool that you use to breathe life into your songs more than anything else.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense.
I do enjoy playing guitar, but that's definitely the angle it's come at from me.
But I once read you know who Robbie Krieger is?
Yeah, from the Doors.
Yeah, I once read an article, and Robbie said the same thing. He goes, "You know what, man?" He goes, "I'm qualified to play in this band. I don't know that I'd qualify to play in any other band," because he was so. That was what he did,
Yeah, it's a little intimidating sometimes. Like all the other guys in my band have gigged a lot, and a couple of them went to school for music, or have just been in a lot of bands, and I've really been in 2 or 3 bands in my life, and it's cool. It's cool that it works out.
Yeah, for whatever it's worth, man. I never would have thought that. You look totally. I mean, I knew you were the rhythm player. I didn't think you were the lead player, but you're totally. To me, you're like a depth that I would have thought you've played rhythm most of your career while you were supporting your songwriting. So, whatever you're doing, it's working. Don't tell anybody. Don't change it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, man. What is that? Fake it till you make it. Whatever you're doing, it's working. So it's fine. Honestly, your song, you're playing is just fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. What's been the biggest surprise for you since you started playing professionally, either about playing, about the business, or about anything else that you were like, oh, wow, like things that took you by surprise?
I mean, I'm continually surprised that I get to drive around the country and see really cool venues and really cool people take us out on tour. And I feel so blessed. Like it's easy when you're on tour to get caught up in the day to day, but just to think back and try to stay in the moment while you're out there and just realize we're doing a really cool thing that not everybody gets to do. We've seen the whole country a few times now, and it's a cool way to do it. A cool way to get to see it.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm surprised by that. We came in super green, and not really knowing. Nobody tells you how to sound check before you start sound checking. So there's been all sorts of things that we've learned, and I think that we've done a lot of touring now. We're really good at living out of a band now. I can say that.
Does what's your next tour coming up? Because I know you're kind of you're like you said, you're in the studio now, getting ready to go in the studio for the next album.
Yeah, we're not exactly in the studio right now, but we're writing in Nashville. We actually just went to Wisconsin and wrote. It's kind of becoming a tradition to go for a few days each year and work up some new songs at this cabin that Matt, our drummer's family, owns. But we are going out with Jessica Lee Mayfield at the end of October and early November, and she's got a new record coming out, so we're going to be supporting her, which is kind of fun because when I met Grant, he was Jessica's bass player.
Oh, wow. So
that was one of our first exposures to a guy that we knew in a touring band, and we got to watch him be on Letterman. That was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So we're excited to go out with her. That's the plan. Trying to get out to the West Coast before the end of the year, which is looking like a reality. And we're in town. We're doing Americana Fest next week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you a gearhead or not really?
I don't know. I really like pedals, and I really get into things like synthesizers for a while. It kind of changes. I've learned more and more over the years that the pedals matter, but it's really your fingers and how hard you hit the strings and everything that actually makes the most difference. But I enjoy it. I like a good pedal demo. In the last year and a half, kind of completely switched up my rig. I realized I hadn't really bought anything new in several years, so I decided to get on it.
So what are your top 2 or 3 pedals of choice right now?
Right now, Ernie Ball volume pedal is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Grant got me on that like right when I got to town, and that is a mainstay. The Greer Lightspeed Overdrive. When we were recording our EP, we have an EP called Vista Bent that came out in November. Our buddy Parker recorded that for us at his studio, Creative Workshop. But he had that pedal. Those Greer pedals are awesome, and it's my always on, overdrive, light overdrive. And then I really like delays, and I've had a carbon copy. Like, I wanted a carbon copy delay, which is,
MXR?
Give a delay, but I've like just wanted one forever. And then I was like, why don't I just buy one? So I finally bought one, and I love it. I've been using that for a little over a year now, I think. And those are great.
Is that the MXR?
Yeah, the MXR.
Is that did you get the analog or the digital? Because I know they make both.
It's the analog one. It's the green analog one.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little chorus that you can switch on and off, which before that, I had this like Rogue pedal. I still have a Rogue pedal. I use this Rogue delay, slapback. It's pretty much always on. But I had another one that was modded to make it able to self-oscillate.
Mm-hmm.
Kick that on with a chorus every time. And then I was like, oh man, this one has chorus and delay one, so I could clear a little real estate on the pedal board.
Awesome. Do you use the volume pedal? Like a lot of guitarists I speak to, they use it primarily because it allows them to get distortion at lower volumes. Is that why you dig it so much?
It's it's kind of like, so you can have your overdriven tone.
Yeah.
And then it'll clean up a lot if you pull the volume pedal down just a little bit. It affects how dirty it is a lot. Grant really uses a lot more. I tend to leave mine up all the way, and then I'll click on a drive or something and turn it down. I also haven't done it as much lately, but I really like swells.
Right.
And did a lot of swells for a while, kind of inspired, but not really sounding like Lindsey Buckingham.
Well, it's very hard for most people to sound like Lindsey Buckingham. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. It's going to take a little bit more woodshedding before
just a little bit, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But, again, I go back to that Greg Martin interview. Great guitar. I mean, he's a top-notch guitar player, especially for blues and blues rock, classic rock stuff, the kind of stuff you probably like. And he was telling me, you know who Warren Haynes is, I'm sure.
Yep.
So he was telling me that, he went to see Warren, and he said, I was hoping they wouldn't put me on stage. I'd be too nervous. And I said, I can't believe you're saying that, because everybody listening to this would be nervous as hell to step on stage with you. And here, so I think that's just a normal, unless probably you're, I don't know, maybe if you're Jeff Beck, you don't mind getting on stage with anybody. You're not going to be intimidated, but it seems like everybody feels the same way.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Page, you probably know that he can hang with anyone.
Yeah, but there's so few guys like that. So
totally.
I think I'm sorry.
Whether or not he would admit it is like that. It's really cool to play with a guitar player that he can do. I've seen him do just about anything. He can pick up most stringed instruments and play them. And I think he's got a really unique style that just is a amalgamation of all his inspirations.
He does have an interesting style. It is very unique. It's like you could tell it's rooted in sort of blues, but he doesn't. He's really stretches it out across a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. He might balk at being described as rooted in blues. I know he grew up listening to some of that, but he's kind of moved pretty far in other directions. He studied jazz. He really likes Western music. He played a baritone guitar for a long time. He was really inspired by soundtracks of Ennio Morricone, but
oh wow,
he can just do it all. Like, I can kind of tell him what I like tell him, like, do it like so and so, and he can get very close to there, but still maintain his own viewpoint on it.
Oh, totally. It's probably great to play with someone like that because it keeps you on your toes, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was intimidating. I'm not intimidated by him. These guys are my best friends.
Sure.
So it's not scary anymore, but it's cool. It's a really, really good way to do it. I highly recommend having an amazing guitar player play with you.
Note to everybody out there. Well, it's just like that with everything. I think the better quality, whatever you're doing, fill in the blank, going to the gym, running a business, the better quality X that you surround yourself with, the better you're going to be, the more you're going to be moving forward quicker and inspired and all that good stuff. Yeah, and
Grant knows so much from his education about music theory that he's been a huge wealth of information on that for me. He can, like, I just went to him a couple months ago and was like, well, why do these songs sound like this? Like, I really like this. And he taught me about a new mode that opened such a door to me to understand why a Stevie Nicks song feels the way a Stevie Nicks song does. And it's like not a total mystery, because he has that background. It's really cool. It's been really inspiring to watch him grow over the years. Matt and Taylor we're all songwriters in the band. And we work on those things together, and everybody's a really avid listener, and everybody has their own education in things. It's a really fun way to work.
You all work on melodies and lyrics, or do you just primarily work on lyrics and the other guys are working on melodies?
It varies depending on what we're doing, and who knows what will happen the next time. Traditionally, the way it's worked so far is, like, if I'm writing a song, for example, I'll kind of come up with the chord structure, and I'll come up with the melody, and then maybe I'll write enough words that we can play through it competently and have it feel like a song. And sometimes it's more finished, sometimes there's a bridge, sometimes the structure's all there and I've got an idea for everything, but a lot of times I'll bring in what I've got and somebody will have a cool idea for a change, or like Matt is really masterful with knowing where breaks should be, or different ways the rhythm can, he's thinking about it all the time, and he knows how to make a drum part pop. So we'll get in there, we'll play through it together, and people have ideas. And sometimes that idea is, this has too many verses. Like, maybe you should cut one of these. But we're all open to it, and I think we've gotten more open with each other about being honest about what we like. But we're coming from the same direction, so.
How would you, I hate to ask this question, and I'm just curious though, how would you classify your music?
Whew, that's a tough one, man.
It is, right?
Yeah. I like the description of the songwriter-based classic music. We all, like, you say classic rock and people, especially now, the way the radio's gone, like, think about like 80s hair metal bands.
It depends. If you say classic rock to someone my age, I think, yeah. But if you say classic rock to someone younger, like closer to your age, it's probably not going to get as positive glow.
Yeah, like big 70s rock isn't really our thing. But, we dig that classic stuff. We like songwriters a lot. And cosmic American music, maybe, but like even that's getting a little played these days.
Did you think, in your opinion, and please totally be honest. Did you think I was off or a little on target when I said there's kind of some stoner rock influences in your stuff?
I don't know, man. Like when I think of stoner rock, I think of like Caius.
No. So I was definitely not talking about Caius. They're like, no, there's like a whole branch of basically sort of psychedelic rock that's out of the Netherlands. Caius is like out of the desert out in California. There's a whole branch of really cool, just, the great grooves, good guitar work, great production. But just there's parts of your music that's kind of psychedelic, and I really like that about it. It was very, your music is an experience. I mean, I think good music is an experience, and I definitely felt that your songs were very much like that. It wasn't cut and dried. It was like just a journey. And
cool.
Yeah, some of that to me had some stoner rock, which I happen to love, and I just.
Are you talking about like Dunion?
What's that?
Talking about like Dunion? Do you know that band?
No, I was thinking about more like. Hang on, let me give you some. Hang on, I'll pull up my iTunes and give you some definite names here, and maybe that'll make more sense.
Yeah, we definitely dig psychedelic music. For me personally, like the last 3 years maybe have been kind of a journey into the Grateful Dead.
Interesting.
I've taken some people along with me more than others. So there's definitely psychedelic stuff in there.
I actually saw them in concert in like a long time, probably much earlier than you were born, like in 1980-ish, around there. It was a pretty wild show. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. It was It was not unlike any other concert I've been to that way. Yeah. So some of these bands I'm talking about are bands like Astrosonic, Assemblehead and Sunburst Sound, Agents of Oblivion, Truck Fighters, even some David Gilmour, Pink Floyd stuff was in there. Dixie Witch, Gomer Pyle, Graveyard, Greenleaf. There's a lot of bands from Scandinavia, like I said. I don't know. Cool. I dug the vibe, man.
Man, I dig that. I don't know that we're super familiar with that, but that's cool. We're, we draw from a lot of things, and that one, Ember in the Ash in particular, that's Taylor, our bass player, singing like lead vocal on that, and then Grant is playing a lot on his lap steel guitar, which has been something that's kind of become part of our sound over the years. It's really cool. It's like a lot of people call it a pedal steel on accident, but it doesn't have any of the pedals to change things. The set strings, and he got that when he was getting into like Western swing music, I think, when he was in college.
Sure.
But he sit around and pretty much always on stage with us, and he just A/B switches it, and he can do some really cool ethereal things on it that really set the mood.
That's what I was talking about. There's some very cool ethereal licks in there that are just really cool, really cool. That reminded me of some stoner rock stuff.
Yeah, that song in particular too, we like kind of came at it with a different vibe from like just trying to see what kind of vibe we could get in the studio, which a lot of the songs we came in pretty much knowing what we wanted at the end of it, knowing the song top to bottom, and kind of just playing it live. That record, we recorded really quick, and the record a lot of it was live. But that song just had a little fun experimenting in the studio. And actually, Crimson Moon was another one where we sort of just switched. I was like, I don't want to play guitar. I just want to focus on singing. And can we get some keys on this song? So we kind of wrote that arrangement in the studio. Maybe we should do more of that.
Well, I mean, those are the songs that I really enjoyed. And, certainly I don't base your don't make career decisions based on me. I would say I'm ill qualified to.
We'll keep doing what we're doing, but we've gotten a lot of good feedback on those 2 songs. So
that Crimson Moon, what a song that is, man! I went out with my wife the other night, and on the way home, I said, "Hey, I'm putting this album on." That was the first time you and I chatted briefly, I think, and I said, "I spoke to this guy today. He's super cool, and I love this music. I'm going to listen to this song." And we just jammed on that all the way home. It was awesome, man.
Great.
Some personal questions. Are you outgoing? Not that we can get any more personal. We've already been through your addiction, and all. Are you outgoing or shy by nature, John?
I'm definitely outgoing by nature, but I'm definitely can be overwhelmed by it all at some point. I'm for sure an extrovert, and I like being out around people, but it just all it adds up, being out all the time.
Yeah, I would imagine that does. It's probably draining, like energy wise, at a certain point.
Yeah, it's just our job is to be entertainers, and we go out and do that, and we want to meet the people that if people want to meet us, we want to meet them after the show.
Oh, very cool.
We'll hang out and hopefully talk to as many people as want to talk to us. We're lucky enough that that's a thing after some of the shows. So after a month of that, it can get to be a little bit, and you got all these other things going on. We've got a lot of good friends that we've made over the years, but yeah, definitely an extrovert.
Yeah, well, I could see because you're cranking on stage, and I would imagine by the time your set ends for the night, you're like, well, I'm ready to, have a Coke and kick my shoes off and just veg out and listen to nobody and talk to nobody for a little bit, and then you got to go right outside and start talking. I can see that being draining, actually.
Yeah, it's not anything that I would complain about. It's
sure.
a really good position to be in, and I think that a really good example that I have seen was we went on tour with the Mountain Goats, and like Mountain Goat shows are kind of different than any other rock show I've really been to. People are super engaged and really excited to be there, and you can hear a pin drop at some of these shows. And the John Darnielle, the front man for that band and the writer, he goes out and he doesn't have to, for sure. People would still come to his shows, but he goes out and sits, and he'll take a moment with anyone that wants to come meet him. And there's many more people that want to meet him than want to meet us. So it's good, and I think that helped him form a really devoted fan base.
Well, oddly enough, I spoke about Warren Haynes earlier. That guy's the same way, and they sell out, anything now at this point in time. But he'll spend time 2-3 hours after a show, and their shows are 3 hours long. Government Mule sets, they play basically two 90-minute sets, and then he hangs out after the show. I don't know how he does it. And the guy tours 320 days a year with a bunch of different guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a very demanding thing on you, and yeah, I totally get it that you're thrilled to do it, but I could definitely see it being tough.
That sounds super intense, and
yeah,
I don't know. I'm sure people are getting a connection with him that they don't get with other people, and I'm sure that connection is really good.
Do you remember the first CD or recording you ever purchased?
I think the first CD that I remember getting specifically was my grandma when I was 9, and we got to go on a trip to it was our first solo trip, and each grandkid got to go and stay with grandma and grandpa for a week. I think she bought me the Hunchback of Notre Dame soundtrack. That's
funny, man. Did that my next question was that one of your musical influences, but I would probably bet no.
I don't think that particular soundtrack was huge. There were a lot of my sister really liked musicals and was in theater, and I in turn kind of did some theater. I'm like not a theater cat by any means, but I did it. I thought it was a fun thing to do, and we did listen to a fair amount of musicals growing up. I remember driving around with those CDs in the car. So I'd say, I don't know if it's like clear, but like to some extent that is somewhere deep inside of me, you know?
Mm. Hey, so Jon, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
That is an interesting question. I'm not really sure. I haven't really had much of a fallback plan. I've worked in a lot of restaurants, so probably do some sort of restaurant type thing. It would be cool I really like traveling, so it'd be cool to find some way to still be able to travel, but maybe be more stable, you know?
Speaking of traveling, what's your favorite place you've traveled? Because I know you've been all over.
Love being out west these days. It's really cool to get to go out west anytime. We got to spend a lot of time. This spring we went on tour with the Wild Reeds. Mm-hmm. They took us out. We played about 60 shows together, and
oh wow,
both legs started in basically Los Angeles or outside Los Angeles. So we took a few days to drive out there each time. Just anywhere out there, man. We took a really cool trip to the Grand Canyon. We had a really nice drive through northern Mexico, which was beautiful. We've done a lot of really pretty drives, but that drive for me was one of my tops on the list.
Yeah, I've only been in the Pacific Northwest once, and living in Florida here where everything is like so freaking flat. It was, we drove from Boise up to Seattle. It was like about an 8 or 9 hour drive. And man, it was, I don't have words for it. It was breathtaking. It was amazing.
Yes. It's so cool. The drives out there are pretty brutal because it's like there's not a day off, and you've got to get to the show. You got to get to load in at 4, and it's an 8 or 9 hour drive. But they're pretty, man. You don't complain about it. That's for sure.
Do you ever think of that? You know that Jackson Browne song?
Which
you just
Running on
it? The load. I think it's.
Yeah.
You know that song I'm talking about?
Yeah, man. I love that record.
Yeah.
That record front to back for sure.
I just thought of that when you said the loading, because there's a line in there, something about the loading by 4. I think it's something like that. I think that was the words. And great song, man.
Yeah. Has the benefit of having a bus that drives him to the next place every night. So
yeah, I would imagine.
Maybe pray for us, and someday we'll get that bus.
I am extremely confident that it will not be a long time till you get that bus, man.
Right.
Hopefully, it'll have a toilet on it. So that's where you're really hitting status, man. If you have a grinder on it, that's how it's been explained to me. You know, you've arrived when you have a toilet that you could take a shit on the bus while you're traveling.
Our trusty van's treating us real well these days, and I'm gonna knock on wood, but
awesome.
I hope it stays with us.
Yeah, I hope it does, man. That's got to be really critical. Hey, so what's your business? What do you feel is your biggest business or personal win so far? I mean, you've got a very long career ahead of you, but to date,
there are like signposts. Like we played Bonnaroo, and I remember when we got on, like we won a contest called Road to Bonnaroo that they do in Nashville, and we got to play Bonnaroo.
That's awesome.
And that was a moment for me. Like I grew up going to festivals in Chicago mostly, going to Lollapalooza, going to Pitchfork a lot. And I went to Bonnaroo, like me and my buddy drove down, I think it was the summer after freshman year of college. He was like, if we get tickets, do you want to go? I was like, all right, man. And we went to that, and that was a really huge trip for me at the time, driving all the way down to Tennessee, just the two of us. And just stuff like that, where it's like, man, I never thought that I was gonna get to play Bonnaroo. Like that was pretty wild for me. So there's a lot of things like that over the years. We played the Fillmore at a sold out show. At the
wow, that is magic.
Yeah, and that was like right when I was really getting deep into the Grateful Dead for the first time, and they got a huge portrait of Jerry on in one of the stairwells, and it was just like that cool stuff like that, keeps coming. And then I feel like, now that I'm have my wits about me a little bit more and can be really focused, it's like the more we tour, the more I feel like we are doing the best that we possibly can at touring and getting the most out of it and growing as a band. And I think that's cool. It's always a good feeling when you get done with something and you feel like you made the most of it you possibly could.
When you're standing on stage at the Fillmore at Bonnaroo, is it almost like an out of body, like a surreal experience in a sense?
I think that you need to like stop and think about it, because otherwise, it really is cool. It's really cool to be in front of an audience and be playing for them. Because of the nature of things, there's a lot of stuff that goes in, and it can kind of end up being a rush to get in, get loaded in, make sure that you warm up, sing with the other guys, get your soda water together, and then get on stage and play the show. So there's a lot of rushing around, and I think it's sometimes, like, especially at moments like that, I'll take a moment to sit and really think about, like, the people that have played there before, and like where it's, the history of the place, which is cool.
Yeah, I think what you said is a real important thing for everybody, and myself included in that sort of runs on a bit of a fast track. I think if you're not going to go, intentionally, deliberately go out of your way to just say, okay, I'm going to be in the moment here for the next 10 minutes or whatever, it doesn't just happen. You've got to make that moment,
Yeah, and it's an easy thing to do, and it's an easy thing to forget to do.
Yes, very much. I interviewed a studio and touring guitarist in Nashville. Do you know Peter Ferguson by any chance?
No.
And I asked him, I said, what is your favorite thing about what you do? And he goes, once in a while, it's something will happen on stage, and I'll be standing there, and there's like a split second where everything is dead silent. And I really live for those moments, he said, because I could just take everything in and I just feel so present. And I thought that was, pretty cool that he said that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah. I think, it's easy to miss those moments, and it's really cool to have them. And I think that I forgot what I was going to say after that.
Oh, no worries. I just as I get older, but I find that I have to that's more important to me. Like, just if I'm doing nothing with my wife, it's more important to me that I'm with her there, that I'm present, because I value each of those moments a lot more, perhaps as I've gotten older, or maybe smarter, or I dare not to say that, but maybe a little combination of the two,
Yeah.
You're always kind of learning, but it's I think it's smart what you said, to go out of your way to pause and take it in. Outside of basket weaving, do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
I've been really digging I go to shows all the time. That's what I like to do for fun too, which is, it's nice that I still enjoy it. But I've been doing a little dancing. I've been picking up two-stepping in the last few months. There's a lot of honky tonks in Nashville, and there's a lot of honky tonk shows that are fun to go to, and it's a little more fun if you can hit the dance floor.
Very cool. Dude, what about your signature sandwich? I expected you to like plug that now, your hobby.
Well, that's that is work and hobbies. I work at a bar in East Nashville called Duke's, and it fortunately is a place that I really like to be. Like, I open the doors and I feel at home, which I can't say about every place I've ever worked. But yeah, I'm a sandwich artist there. I like to, if I'm going to be doing my job, I want to really do a good job at it, and I like being there. And I created a signature sandwich for our album release. I do like cooking. I don't do as much of it as I used to, especially working at a deli where they feed me when I work. So.
Well, dude, what's your signature sandwich? Don't keep everybody in suspense. I want people to go to Duke's and sit down and get your signature sandwich. What is it?
Well, it was a limited time only sandwich. Missed the boat, but it had we've had some vegetarians in the band these days, and we decided to do a vegetarian sandwich. It had seitan. It had spinach. I made some mushrooms and onions, sauteed them, fresh jalapeno, sriracha mayo, cheese, and then all pressed on a hot press.
Dude, that sounds good. So now you go, and you mention this podcast, you get 50% off.
No discount.
Hey, let me ask you the same question I asked that Peter Ferguson. What's your favorite part of your job and your least favorite part of what you do?
I really like being on the road. Gives a sense of purpose, which I really like about it. Like, we're so often, because what we're doing is self-motivated, like, you have to make sure that you practice, you have to make sure that you're writing songs, you have to make sure that you're doing all these things, which I like to do, but there's always a little something in the back of my mind saying, well, you should be doing, like, I find it hard to just chill out and like sit and veg and watch TV or something these days, because there's always something that I probably should be working on. But when we're on tour, I know exactly what I need to be doing that day, which is get to the venue, load in, sound check, play the best show I can, go afterwards, meet the audience, sell merch, load out, and then get to the next show. And like, if I did those things that day and I did them the best that I can, then there's not really like other things eating at me that I should have done. Sure. So I really like that about being in a band and being on it's a good time for that. What's my least favorite thing?
Yeah.
I don't like when I'm like agonizing over a song. Like, I always feel really satisfied when a song's done and I'm really proud of it, but there's sometimes in the process where you don't feel like it's quite right, and you can't get past that point and things aren't getting done. So sometimes deadlines are good for that, sometimes not overthinking it's good for that, but sometimes the best song takes a little work.
Yeah, that's true. Sure. I mean, you can't, but because we talked about this briefly. I write a lot of ad copy, and sometimes there's really long sales letters, and I understand exactly how you feel, because sometimes there's just something in there that's like missing, and you find like if I put something down, the best thing for me to do sometimes is, okay, I know I'm 90% done or 95% done or maybe even 100% done, with the exception of whatever this one thing is that I don't know. But if I leave it and come back to it like 3 or 4 days later with fresh eyes, it's sort of much easier to spot. Do you do something like that?
Well, the trick is going back to it, later. Yeah. Making sure that you do come back to it instead of just letting it sit unfinished. Yeah. I think that, I definitely do that. Like, I prefer, because I feel like things get done and can be called done if there's at least enough of a song that you can play a couple verses and a couple choruses and then figure out the rest later, or ideally write the whole song in one night, which is what I like to do. But I come back to things for sure and get it to that point. I think that, like, I don't know, you could write lyrics that maybe people wouldn't know were phoned in. Like, you could phone it in, but then you end up having to sing those lines. And there have been, over the years, a couple lines that never really got written. They were just kind of the first thing that came out of my mouth. And it's harder to be excited to sing that. And nobody else knows, but I know.
Yeah, but I that's got to happen once. Sometimes, done is better than perfect. I'm not a big, to get stuff moving, I'm a kind of a fan of that. Done is better than perfect.
And I think that's how we felt about this record, too, was we're really proud of it, but we put a really tight deadline on it because we wanted to get a record out, and we tracked it in 4 days. And we went with, instead of having Grant play like 18 solos and picking the best one, we went with what came to him naturally on some things, or the vocal takes, maybe are not exactly pitch perfect. I think we're singing a lot better than we have in the past sometimes.
Yeah.
But, just like making decisions like that, like, this is a document of the time that it was written, and you don't have to go back and labor over it.
Yeah, I really give you credit, because as a doing your first album, I think that's a super mature attitude. And you're, how old are you? You're pretty young, right?
I'm 29.
Okay, so you're 29. I think that having that, being comfortable with that, is a very mature attitude at that age, and not getting caught up in too much of the minutia, because 95, maybe 99% of that minutia, the only ones that are noticing that is going to be you, not the listener.
I can tell you we got caught up in the minutia in the past, and I think that that helped us learn that lesson. Having done it both ways, I prefer to keep moving, and we prefer to keep moving now. I think that, there's a happy medium between 4 days and 4 months.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. What are you looking forward to in the future, either musically, professionally, or personally? Or what are you most looking forward to? Because I know you're looking forward to a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah. I'm excited professionally to see where this thing goes now that we have a record out. It's kind of there's been a lot of things that we've gotten to do over the years, and I think that there's been some opportunities that we haven't had because we haven't had a full-length record out. So getting past that, milestone in our career and getting that out the door so that we can open up new songwriting things. I'm excited to write more songs with my dudes,
Yeah, sure, man.
I'm excited to go on tour more, and just see if we can keep on track.
2 more questions and we'll be finished. What's the most important lesson your business or life has taught you?
I think that I haven't learned this lesson fully yet, but living in the moment has become more and more important for me over especially the last couple of years. Especially sobriety has helped us a lot. And I'm still working at it, trying to work at it actively. But like we were talking about, like being on tour and just appreciating that you're there because you're doing a really cool thing, and just being there to appreciate that you're doing a cool thing that a lot of other people want to be doing, and being thankful for that. I think that's enriched my life quite a bit.
Awesome. And this last one's a very tough question, man. What is your definition of happiness?
That is tough. For me, I mean, my goal in life right now, and like the driving force, is it would be really cool if we could make music a career that we don't have to have other things, and like that's the thing that we have to do, and that's what we pay our rent with. I'm not trying to be rich by any means, and I live within my means, but it would be really cool if, like, I think that if we could put all of our energy into making music together and all of our energy into recording and exploring new paths as they come to us, it could yield some really cool results. So I'm excited about that, and that would make me happy.
I think also, go ahead.
It's like, be on tour and go out to eat at cool places would be really cool. Like experience the cities a little bit more instead of living on kind of a shoestring budget.
Sure. I'm pretty sure we'll be having an interview when another album of yours comes out, and we'll go back and revisit that, and I would be pretty confident some of that started to happen for you. So,
well, I hope so, man.
Hey, listen, I cannot thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate your time and your honesty and just being a good guy. Is there anything you want to promote? Let me take the minute and promote the album. Everybody check out Blank Range's new album, Maroon with the Treasure, and you can check them out online at Blank Range Music, BlankRange music.com. It's a wonderful album. It's really cool. John, anything else you want to promote at all?
I'd say go find us on Instagram or Facebook, whatever you use. We're really active on there, and that's one of the best ways that you're going to find out when we're coming to your city. We go on tour a lot, and we'll probably be somewhere near you within the next 6 months, if not sooner, probably sooner. So we'd love to see you out at a show. And like I said, with Music Cares, that is a really good organization. If you feel like you need help with any sort of medical situation and you're a musician, look out, because they're angels, and chances are they'll be willing to send you in the right direction.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, man, I can't thank you again. I hope you'll be coming by Tampa sometime, or Orlando. We'll get to meet in person. And what's that? What's that?
We can't wait to get back to Florida. I can tell you that. We talk about it often.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you don't want to come next week. We're having a hurricane, but after that, it would be awesome to come see you. Hey, I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thanks again so much to Jon Childers from Blank Range for spending his time with us. Go check him out online and on tour on Instagram and Facebook. John, thank you again for your transparency and just being a really cool guy.
Thank you.
Everybody, go to everyonelovesguitar.com and sign up to get notified about future episodes, along with some other cool new things we'll be doing for guitar players. Now, be nice, go play your guitar, and have some fun. Until next time, I'm out. Peace, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.